I don't know if y'all can tell at this point, but I don't think this is a good idea.
Waves of nostalgia transform into tides. Crippling habits target newer lives. The classic conundrum that swallows our eyes. The foolish duck isn't here to lie.
Hello there, beautiful human. My name is RidersDX, and welcome to another rendition of Late Night Riders, the one talk show that takes place in a bedroom. Anyway, I hope you all are having a fantastic night because, well, I'm sweating like a horse right now. But the main thing we're going to be talking about today is classic Sonic. And so, let me just preface this by saying that I love Sonic and I love all forms of Sonic, but I would be lying to you if I said that Sonic hasn't been divisive. There's many reasons why Sonic is a divisive franchise and why he has so many different subsets of fans, but one of the things that is actually kind of the same case for a lot of different franchises is nostalgia. Obviously, nostalgia is a very rampant thing in the gaming industry, and it's always been there. In the last decade, we've seen so many franchises either make brand new games in older styles, or we've seen franchises outright remake older games to try to pick a little bit from that cash flow. As long as people get older, and as long as you grow up on something that isn't here now, nostalgia is always going to be a thing. Now, I will say that Sega's always had a very interesting way of adapting to trends, and classic Sonic is definitely no exception. So let me get this out of the way now. Is there actually a problem with classic Sonic? Well, before I go ahead and answer that, I actually went to both my community tab and my Twitter to ask you folks what you think about this issue. And here are some things you all had to say. I really hate the fact that we have two different Sonics when we could have one consistent Sonic, but without classic Sonic we were not Mania or the shorts. I would rather one Sonic than two though. I think the distinction is okay because their designs work well in their respective gameplay styles, but I think they should have stayed in their separate games after generations. Although I think they should still be same characters since they're just different designs, not characters. I never really had an issue with it. They're both pretty different design, tone, and gameplay wise, so I don't see an issue of labeling them as two different things. The only thing is I think both of them appearing in a game together should have been a one-time thing. The Division was good in the sense that it addressed a forgotten side of the Sonic fanbase in 2011 and brought classic Sonic out of the realm of obscurity. It was bad because it messed up the timeline, overcomplicated things, and is now just nostalgia bait. So I'm neutral on the Division of the two. It was neither wrong nor right for the franchise. I personally do not like the Division. It seems like nowadays classic Sonic has replaced Tails, and I liked it when it was more simple. That doesn't mean that the Division can't be handled well though. In Generations it was kinda cool and interesting, but in Forces it seemed to be a cash grab and unnecessary. It's needlessly convoluted, furthers the divide between fans of the classics and the 3D games, and honestly just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Imagine if 2D Mario was a different character than 3D Mario. It just doesn't work in my opinion. Sonic should just be Sonic. So, why do so many people have a problem with classic Sonic? I actually reached out to both Sonics in particular to try to see if they had any insight on this issue, but classic Sonic was too busy promoting his latest memoir, Spin Dashing Back from the Dead, while modern Sonic has checked into rehab because of all the pain he wasn't able to portray in Forces. So, you're stuck with me. I think the best way to go about this discussion is first going into how classic Sonic became a thing. I'd probably need like a million hands to count the amount of times that people would go, Sonic's had a rough transition to 3D. Yeah, I know you all know that. But in my eyes, Sonic's transition to 3D is like a very elongated version of puberty. You're either going through it now or have gone through it and shudder at the thought that you were ever that young. But one thing that many versions of puberty have as a commonality is that art of figuring out your identity and what place you want to take in the world. Granted, most of us don't figure that out by the end of puberty. In fact, some of us don't even figure it out till we're like 60, I don't know. But Sonic's kind of never figured it out. He certainly has come close a few times. I mean, the speed stages in the adventure games are very well praised and to this day are still seen as some of the best versions of 3D Sonic gameplay we've ever seen in the franchise. And Sonic sort of struck gold again with Unleashing Colors when he adopted what we now know as the boost gameplay. He got a lot of positive reception for that and we got to see some of the highest critic scores in the franchise in what felt like years. I didn't suck at this. But then came Generations, and that was when we were presented with the concept of a classic Sonic. So Sonic Generations was released to celebrate the 15th anniversary of Sonic the Hedgehog, and they thought the best way of celebrating the anniversary was obviously looking back on what the franchise has done up to that point. The classic games are very huge and arguably the most important part of this franchise's history. And so they were trying to think of ways as to how they could do that, and it seemed like the most interesting way of doing it, and also the most appealing way, was actually bringing back classic Sonic and having him fight side by side with modern Sonic in a brand new adventure that we know as Sonic Generations, where they would go through tons of levels throughout Sonic's entire history in order to save the world. The game was received really well, and it's held by a lot of Sonic fans as one of the best Sonic games of all time, and I honestly can't blame them. It's a very solid game. It's really fun. It's been said many times up to this point that classic Sonic was meant to be a one-time thing for this game, just a way to celebrate the games that came before and just a way to acknowledge Sonic's past. But obviously that wasn't the case. Fast forward a few years later, we got two very important Sonic games in terms of where the Sonic franchise is right now, and that is Sonic Mania and Sonic Forces. Let's kind of dive into Sonic Mania first, because that's definitely the one that's probably the most responsible for why we have this classic Sonic problem. So it was developed by a team led by Christian Whitehead, who was formerly a very prominent figure in the Sonic fan game community. He was eventually signed by Sega themselves to develop a brand new Sonic game in the classic trilogy style. The whole concept of Sonic Mania was to, one, celebrate the original 3 trilogy games, but also to develop new levels and to really breathe some more life into classic Sonic and get people back into the Sonic franchise that missed this kind of gameplay specifically. Sonic Mania was undoubtedly one of the most successful Sonic games we've ever seen. I mean, just looking through the critic scores of this game, it's absolutely insane just how much people loved this game when it came out and how much people still love it now. I played through Sonic Mania I think like once or twice, and while the classic style is not my favorite gameplay style, it's undoubtedly a very solid game. It's well designed and just flat out fun, and really helped me to get a little bit more acclimated into the classic games. Due to the huge success of Sonic Mania though, classic Sonic has become an actual figure within the Sonic franchise, his own entity separate from modern Sonic. And it seems fine, from the distance, because it's like there's lots of franchises that do delve into the nostalgic pool and make products targeted at that audience. So there's nothing inherently wrong with that. But I think to see what the problem could be with classic Sonic, you need to look no further than Sonic Forces. And so Sonic Forces was the other game that was announced for 2017, and it was seen as the modern Sonic game obviously. But it also put in classic Sonic as a separate character, and this game did a lot of things in terms of establishing why people have the opinions they have now of classic Sonic. In terms of lore and such, classic Sonic was no longer a younger version of Sonic. Forces retconned that and made classic Sonic a different version of Sonic. The reason they did this, I would imagine, is because they wanted to connect Forces to Mania in terms of the storyline. Classic Sonic was officially his own entity and not just the Sonic of the past. After these two games, Iizuka has actually gone on record saying that classic Sonic is a separate Sonic and that they want to take care of both Sonics really well. But what are some of the positives and negatives of having a separate iteration of Sonic? I don't know if y'all can tell at this point, but I don't think this is a good idea. I tried really hard to hide my opinion in the beginning when I'm trying to present all the facts and such, but I do have a very strong reason for believing that classic Sonic being his own thing is not good for this franchise. I'm gonna go through the positives first, just to kind of talk about what are some of the benefits of having classic Sonic as his own iteration, and then I'll go into some of the negatives, and then I'll finally talk about what I think the franchise should be doing. So one positive about this is pleasing the different spectrums of the fan base. I'd mentioned before that the Sonic fan base is extremely divided. There's so many different subsets of fans that like different things. It's a really weird division, or a set of divisions that maybe it's in other franchises, but I kind of doubt it, because Sonic has had so many different ideas of who he is implemented in all these different sorts of media that it's really hard to pinpoint just who Sonic is at this point. So by having a classic Sonic, you can have a Sonic that will appeal to that fan base specifically, while you can still utilize the modern Sonic to appeal to these fans. So that way it theoretically makes more people happy. And that's definitely something that is possible by having 2 Sonics. The other positive I can think of is that nostalgia is extremely profitable. I mean, like I mentioned before, all these different franchises reviving the old gameplay styles and art styles, all these franchises making remakes of old games to cash in on nostalgia as well. Nostalgia is hot. And as long as people get older, as long as people have memories from their childhood, it's not going away anytime soon. Having that method of profiting off the franchise is only beneficial for Sonic because having more funds coming into the franchise just means more funds for bigger games. And so if that's what we need to do to get people to like Sonic again and to invest more money in him so that we can actually get adequately funded games and really see Sonic take over the gaming industry again, then that's what we need. Now, some of the negatives of having a classic Sonic though is that there's a clear splitting of resources. This might not apply if you have different teams working on different games, but I think what I really mean by splitting resources is that you look at Sonic Forces, for instance, and you see that there was the modern Sonic gameplay, the Avatar gameplay, and the classic Sonic gameplay. Clearly, they had to split the resources amongst those 3 gameplay styles, and as a result, classic Sonic really suffered from this because, oh gosh, the physics. It's just a really great but tragic example of how diluting your focus too much into all these different avenues can be really harmful towards a game's development. The other thing that I would say I'm really concerned about in particular is just confusion of brand identity. You see, if you have 2 different Sonics, then it's really hard to kind of pinpoint like the sole brand identity of Sonic. And what I mean by this is that every franchise kind of has its own method of recognizing it from a distance. Take Mario, for instance. You look through the hundreds of Mario games that have come out at this point, and they all kind of maintain the same Mario feel. They have that like bright, saturated color themes in them, the simplistic stories, similar character designs. Mario has a very clear image, and Nintendo is ruthless in maintaining that image. And you can actually kind of see this in terms of what happened to the Paper Mario series, because Paper Mario is known for actually trudging away from the Mario identity and kind of doing some of its own things, and it's got quite a fan base for it. But then Nintendo kind of were like, nope, we need Mario to do this and this and this. We need Mario to have 10,000 toads in every game. We need Mario to be boring and stale. So do that to Paper Mario, please. And that's what's happened in like Sticker Star and Color Splash. But Sega has handled the Sonic franchise in like the most opposite way you could think of. We had a Sonic game where you were holding guns. We had a Sonic game where he went into storybooks. We had a Sonic game where he turned into a werewolf. And so that brand identity problem was already there with Sonic. I feel like classic Sonic is just making that problem worse, because now you have 2 literal conflicting versions of Sonic competing for the same fan base. And so I think that short term it's going to benefit the team because classic Sonic games are still doing well. But I feel like eventually there's just going to be a lot of confusion on who Sonic is, and so people will see a Sonic game and they just won't know what to expect. In fact, that's what's happened now. People look at a Sonic game now and they don't know whether to expect a good or bad game, while you look at a Mario game and people know what to expect in terms of quality, in terms of image, in terms of, you know, everything. And so I really think it's much more vital for Sonic to really establish who he is and stick to one little identity. You know, it's okay to have some spin-off games here and there to kind of like go away from that and kind of do something a little bit different, but overall Sonic needs to be a lot more focused than he's been for like the past decade or so. I mean, I think it's great that we have so many different opinions and so many different subsets of the fan base, but I really think that this has harmed the franchise in the long run, because by having all these different iterations, all these different ideas of Sonic, it's not clear who Sonic is. And I don't even think Sega is clear on who Sonic is. It's unfortunate because I feel like even if Sega do make great games, then that brand identity issue is going to be there. And so I think they really need to focus on one identity and then start making great games with it. Having those maintainable rules on who Sonic is and sticking to them, I think is going to be really vital for Sonic in the future, because if he continues having all this confusion in terms of who he is, then I really don't see the franchise kind of getting out of where it is right now. I mean, it might have some successes here and there, but it's also going to have some flops here and there because they don't really get who Sonic is. I think all this can get fixed eventually if we just start getting good games, you know? I think it'll become a lot more clear in terms of who Sonic is and what the Sonic identity needs to consist of. I really don't know the answer to this question. I don't really know who Sonic should be, you know? I think that like there's some benefits to Sonic's more happy-go-lucky style, but there's also a lot of benefits to the adventure style that I grew up with. It's tough. I don't know. I can't make that decision, and I don't think Sega feels feels like they can make that decision either. I just think that having a classic Sonic might be more harmful than beneficial. Bottom line is to just make good games. I think once you start making good games, it'll become more clear who Sonic should be. But we don't really know that yet because we haven't gotten enough good games. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you think it's a good idea having classic Sonic be a thing, or do you think it's not a good idea? Let me know why or why not. I'd be really interested in hearing your thoughts. Even though I feel like classic Sonic being here is not a good thing, I will always appreciate the fact that we got Sonic Mania. It's a great game, and I'd love to see more games like that in the future. I just don't think it's necessary to have it be a classic Sonic thing. I think it should be a Sonic thing. That's pretty much what I think. But now that we got that out of the way, I wanted to turn your attention to my next point, which is why Adventure Sonic should be his own iteration.
He's chubbier.
Thank you so much for watching this video. Special shout out to Andrew Coughlin, The Nerd Corner, Team Ride with Sonic Gamer, Cheryl Rainfall, Blitz Productions, Johnny Hinton Ortiz, Trash Q, Abraham Muter, and Mass Muter. These are my patrons / YouTube members. If you'd like to become a patron or YouTube member and get access to a whole bunch of different perks, then please check out the links in the description box below. But alright, this is Riders, riding out.